Hi, I'm Stephanie J. Block.
And I'm Mary Lee Fairbanks.
And you are listening to Season 4 of Stages Podcast, where we go behind the scenes and beyond the resume.
Join us as we talk to some of the greatest talents from theater, TV, film, and more. And then check out stagespodcast.net for past episodes, merch, and so much more.
And love where you are now. But you are wearing lavender, and it looks fabulous on you.
Excuse me, ready?
This is the Be Kind of a Bitch? Yeah, it's fabulous. It's so
I got you one. I talked to my cousin yesterday, and she's like, well, my cousin's like, I did not get one. And I'm like, all right, you and Steph both need one. Fine. So I went out and I ordered more.
That's so nice. I really, really do like it. We'll say that the lavender, yes, your face is, it's vibrant. You're glowing.
I got a lot of comments from friends and even listeners who were just like, no, you're not a pastelli. So I thought I would try, but I think he might be right.
I think he's right. I know. I think he might be right too.
And I'm
you
not
look
a
so alert
fan.
And you're glowing, sister. Well, experts know things. Like we call them fashion experts, and that is a reason.
But I don't like pastels. So am I going to have to learn to like them?
I think so. Yeah. It's better than, what's that old lady poem? When I am old, I will purple with a red hat. Or what is, do you know that poem? Our guest today is hilarious, ridiculous, talented, chatty, witty, amazing. He is the radio host of On Broadway and Seth Speaks on SiriusXM. He's a musical genius at the piano, a live concert series producer, a published author, a teacher, and a huge personality with a huge, generous heart. His passion, humor, and knowledge for Broadway has led him to become the honorary mayor of the Broadway community. He is so beloved and respected for all of the reasons I've just mentioned, but also because of how he and his husband, James Wesley, engage artists to use our time, our talents, for the good of a worthy cause, the good of our nation's democracy and freedoms, and the good of helping those who are in need. During the early days of the pandemic, Seth and James produced and hosted a web series called Stars in the House. Almost daily, there was a new episode. It aired live on YouTube, and then the viewers could enjoy interviews, performances from some of their all-time favorite actors and singers, and and they would receive the latest medical updates and science news from Dr. John LaPook. So it was an absolute solve to everybody's, I don't know, our need for art, our need for connection, our need for information. Anyway, they raised well over $1 million for then the Actors Fund, which has recently been renamed the Entertainment Community Fund. I've had the pleasure of being a guest on that series, on his radio show, and on his big, fat Broadway vacations that he hosts. I've done this many times, and it brings me joy every time. I respect him greatly, and I love that my daughter loves him even more than I do. Please welcome the one and only Seth Rudetsky. Seth Rudetsky to the stage, please. Seth, can we have you to the stage?
Yeah, first of all, hello, Seth Rudetsky. I'm so happy to meet you.
Hello.
She added an extra N for flair. Rudetsky. That's even hard to say.
Seth Rudetsky.
It's a hard one.
No, it's not. But when we talked to Danny Bernstein, he was like, oh, the Danny Bernsteins that I get, like the extra N.
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, that's another stupid name. It should have an N.
Well, yeah, the mouth does want to form an N. Danny. Yes. And maybe it's the Danny part. You're already conditioned to do Danny Bernstein.
Leonard Bernstein.
Leonard Bernstein.
Who's named Bernstein?
Of course.
Thank you.
Well, Danny is. You can take it up with him. How was that bio, my friend?
Hey, I loved it. I have my 2 corrections.
Yeah.
James has added his childhood last name, which is a whole story, but now it's James Wesley Jackson. He went back to his
James Wesley Jackson. Well, instead of re-recording, we will just have you correct me. Oh, that's so, when did that happen?
That's a whole story 2 months ago, but it's an amazing story, but I feel like it's his story and all I want to do is co-opt it. But,
great.
And B, you're downplaying Stars in the House almost daily. Girl, we were doing 2 shows a day, every day, 2 p.m., 8 p.m., 2 p.m., 8 p.m., 2 p.m., 8 p.m.
So almost daily was an understatement. And I thought that gagged me, that fact, because I think it was like 445 episodes, 444 episodes, something like that.
Why twice a day?
Why twice? You know, it's so funny. James and I both, quote unquote, blame the other person. He was saying, oh, we should do it like a regular time every day, like a Broadway show at 8. And I guess somehow we were like, oh yeah, those matinees at 2. And somehow we were like, I guess that means 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock. And it just became what it was. And we did it every day, 2 and 8 o'clock for a long time. And then we went down to just 8. And now we just do it basically like every 2 weeks or something. But
Seth, I can't even imagine, because the recording of this show is like, that's the cherry on top. All of it is scheduling, getting people to be on, having the, so I can't imagine trying to gather all of these artists for a twice a day production. Like, how did that even happen?
Well, you know, first of all, everybody was home. So it was definitely easier.
True. That's true.
We've been working with people for a million years. We're not going through publicists or agents. We were just texting everybody. And then amazing things would happen, like Marsha Cross, I think, did our Desperate Housewives. And then she said, oh, do you want me to get a reunion of, what was that show she was on in the 90s? You know,
Melrose Place.
So she said, do you want me to get Melrose? So other people would then volunteer to get shows together of their own. So it was a group effort. And we also had David Katz, who like was working like a dog. And we had
the great David Katz.
Oh my God, the brilliant David Katz, who I know you love.
Yeah.
Who does my Broadway cruises with us. And then we had like another team of like 4 people. It was fine. You know, and also James basically did all the work. I was sort of like, I'd brush in like in full hair and makeup and do the show. But
you were the personality. You were the face of it all. Yeah.
Was there editing involved, or did you just go live and keep it live?
No,
you were live.
It was just
live, no edits. Wow.
Yes,
and I think they still live. They live on YouTube, right?
They're all there.
Yeah.
We have like a list. It's interesting, like what the most popular shows are. Definitely like our Jesse reunion. Hey, Jesse. That like, I guess so many people grew up on that show with Kevin Chamberlain. That's like our $1 billion. Everyone watches that. But also our Ragtime reunion. Yeah, but they all still live and people still make the donations, which is great. And
that is great.
It wasn't just the Actors Fund. Also, we would do specials. Like we did one for the Humane Society, one for the Waterkeepers, NAACP, Legal Defense Fund. The whole month of June after George Floyd was murdered, everything was dedicated to that. So
the two of you are obsessed. Half of your heart is devoted to animals. Mary Lee, Seth, go. I'm out. Because the animal conversation, the two of you.
How many dogs you get over there, Seth?
Well, let me see. I could bring you right now. Hold on. Yeah, because they're not plugged in. So right now, as we're speaking, they are both. So here's my sweet Mandy.
Oh, hello, Mandy.
Wants to put her paw on me. That's her favorite thing. And then this little sweet boy, Bagel.
Oh, my God. They look like older pups. Are they older?
Yeah, they're around 10. They're both in the same shelter in New York. They're both 10. And then
was Mandy named after the Barry Manilow song?
No, a lot of people ask. No, my first dog, who I love so much, her name is Maggie. Jewish tradition is like you name the first initial, you know, after someone you love. So she's named after Maggie. But the Broadway cruises Stephanie was talking about, I don't know if we did it on one of yours, but we always try to go to an animal shelter as one of our stops. And then we write to the animal shelter beforehand and we say, what should our passengers bring you? So we went to one in Puerto Rico Humane Society and we wound up adopting Mateo from there. And we went to one in Aruba and we adopted Chrissy from there. So those 2 doggies live upstate with James's mom.
I have an Aruba adoptee. They're called Canucos. They're the beach dogs. And they're they're really smart. They're really awesome. I have 4 dogs at the moment, but lately I've been dreaming about 5. And I don't even want another one, but I keep having a dream that I'm going to get a 5th dog. So I have a feeling someone's going to show up on my lawn. That's usually how I end up. I see them walking down the street or someone just drops it off in my yard. And so, yeah, we got 4 dogs, 5 rescue goats, and then a bunch of chickens.
Goats are so cute. We have 1 kitty cat too, 1 rescue kitty cat, just FYI. Nice. I want a goat.
One of my dreams in life is to have a rescue, but I want to rescue the animals from people with terminal illness so that if they're passing away and they have no one to take their pet, I'll take their pet and promise them that the animal will end up in a loving home. Because imagine passing away and not knowing what's going to happen to your pet, like how torturous that would be.
Well, and so for that pet who's been loved on for all this time, and then all of a sudden they're like, where am I? What's happening? What are these smells? Why is it cold?
Older, and nobody rescues the older animals, and so that's one of my dreams.
That I see those kind of rescues often, but there's not definitely a database for it. That's the kind of thing maybe like if you connect with hospices across the country, you know, because everyone that goes in there must have a pet. I have a story for you, Mary Lee, that you'll like, and Stephanie will also like, because it involves Broadway. The Bill Berloni was an intern. He was an intern at Goodspeed Opera House in the 70s, and they said we need a dog for this musical Annie, and he didn't know anything about dog training, but they said we'll give you your equity card if you can get a doggy and train him. So he went to an animal shelter. He saw a dog that he thought was perfect to play Sandy, and they said we're literally about to, quote unquote, put him to sleep, aka kill him. But if you can get him for $3, and it was the 70s and he didn't have $3, and he was like, I don't have that money. So they said, if you come back tomorrow morning, you can get him before he's killed. So he he got $3 from his roommate, went back like 7 a.m. in the morning because he was so panicked that poor Sandy would be killed. He paid $3, got Sandy, was this shy dog, would look like Sandy. He trained him. He didn't know anything about training, but he grew up with doggies. He trained Sandy. Sandy became the dog on Broadway that we all know as Sandy, rescued from the shelter in Goodspeed. He had an understudy, by the way, named Arf. And ever since then, thank you, Bill Berloni has been training all the animals on Broadway. So every animal you see merely on Broadway, they are all rescues ever since the 70s, because Bill trains them all, every single animal, like including the rats that were in The Woman in White. And after the show closes, if they can't get adopted, like, of course, Orfeh adopted her doggy from Legally Blonde.
That's right, from Legally Blonde,
of course. But sometimes they can't find a home, so they all live on Bill's farm upstate, and he plays the Broadway radio channel from SiriusXM because he hopes that they'll hear it and go, oh my God, that's my song. So
he was in that show. Oh my God, I want him to come on the podcast.
Oh,
sure. Let's talk to Bill. Yeah.
You'll love it.
Can we get his information from you, Seth?
Yes, oh my God, he's the best person. And he's gotten so many Broadway people adopted dogs. Remember Anna Gasteyer? She's like, I want a small dog with an old man face. And he found he's so great about that.
I love that.
I will say this. So I stepped in, right, for Sutton when she was doing her pilot for Anything Goes. There was a dog in that show, but Roundabout decided to have a stuffed animal, like a stuffed animal Yorkie. Right. Then fast forward to me being in The Mystery of Edwin Drood, and then in Act 2, Alice Nutting storms out of the theater with her little dog in hand. And they were trying to give me this passed off stuffed Yorkie from Anything Goes. I was like, oh, this isn't going to work, y'all. They're like, no, it's fine. It's just moments. You cross the stage, you go up the house, out the doors, you're in the alley. No one's even going to see the dog. I said, have you seen my dog? Has anybody seen my sweet dog, Makako? And no. They said, absolutely not. So I just kind of broke the rules. I brought Makako in. Scott Ellis saw Makako and was like, okay, I don't care if you show up for the show, but that dog better never miss a performance. So Seb, during intermission, would drive from Harlem to, we were at, what's disco?
54.
54. I was going to say 52nd Street, but 54. Mm-hmm. And he would drop Makako off for his Broadway show. And then I would take him home. And on days that I was sick, we would literally call in and be like, do you need Kako? And some days they would use the stuffed animal. And some days they'd be like, yeah, would it be all right if you guys brought Kako, even though I was out of the show? So Kako, on the wall of Roundabout, they have this timeline with different images, and he has his own moment of being the only canine to be on the stage for the Roundabout Theater Company.
That's awesome.
Well, two things I'll say. That's based on a long tradition. Betty Buckley used her little dog when she was playing Drood. That was her dog.
Well, I just like to follow her career anyway.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
I want to know where this all began for you. I mean, were you always just obsessed with musicals? And because when you do your breakdown and you break down the whole thing, you have so many factoids and details that seem to be so organic and ingrained in you. It's not like you just learned these facts and are repeating them.
He knows
these
everything.
Are just like a part of your psyche. When did this all begin? Were you just this little kid who soaked it all up?
I didn't have a lot of facts when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I just loved musicals. My parents took me to see Broadway shows. We lived near New York City. We lived in Long Island. So I became obsessed with Broadway, seeing shows when I was a kid, but I didn't really know facts per se, but I would listen to albums and I would take the scores out of the library. That was the most exciting thing, because vocal selections that you can buy in a store, it's like it's in the wrong key and it's not the entire song. But if you go to the library, you get the entire score, and that's when you can like get all the scene change music. And oh my God, it was so exciting to play those. And then when I was an adult, basically, something prompted me. I saw two things that made my head come off. One was Jane Krakowski I was doing the Funny Girl concert for the Actors Fund, and Jane was one of the singers, and they interviewed her on a talk show, and they were like, so Jane, we hear you're doing a benefit of Funny Girl, but this time it's a musical. huh?
Okay, so I would have been angry too.
I was like, what? Does anybody? And then the second one was I was watching Faith Prince and I go way back. We were in group therapy together. We always talk. That's how we connected. We had group therapy every week. And when she was doing Guys and Dolls, and her like go-to story was that when she's nervous, she cooks. And when she was waiting for a Tony nomination, she was making pancakes. And then she got the phone call. So she's on, I think it was the Tonight Show. And obviously that had been the pre-interview, like, where were you waiting for the Tony nomination? I was making pancakes. So it was like, Faith Prince, where were you when you won the Tony? Huh? So I was like, oh my God, nobody knows anything. Or they get these 30-second stories. So I said to myself, I love stories about Broadway. My favorite things are like how, by the way, I tell Stephanie J. Block all the time, are you Stephanie J. Block? Why, yes, I am. You've been served. Like I always, I just love hilarious stories. So I was doing one of my signature benefits. I can't remember what. And David Friedman, who was the conductor for Disney, he's brilliant. He conducted Aladdin and Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, but he's also a brilliant songwriter. He wrote Help Was on the Way, one of my favorite songs ever. Anyway, he saw me at the benefit. And before the person sang, I was just talking to them. And David said, you're such an interesting combination of insider and fan. And I was like, oh, that is sort of true. And I was also working as a comedy writer on the Rosie O'Donnell show. And that was really her thing. She'd been a movie star, but she loved,
loved Broadway.
Right.
Yep.
And she also loves finding out stories. Fourth thing is I was at the Rosie O'Donnell show. Rosie couldn't do camera blocking with Marty Short because she had been taking the red eye home from the Grammys. So they said, oh, would you do this performance with Marty Short for the camera blocking? So I did it. And the other writers were like, oh, you're such a good performer. Why don't you perform? And I'm like, oh, I don't perform anymore. And I was like, wait, why don't I perform? So I thought to myself, well, there's so many talented people out there, but one of the things that's very unique about me is my personality. So what if I did a talk show where I get to use my personality and play the piano, and I really have Broadway people actually tell stories? So I decided to do something called Seth's Broadway Chatterbox, where I first met you, Stephanie. And I was like, every week I'm going to raise money.
Was that it? Don't Tell Mamas?
Yes, Don't Tell Mamas. When you were doing Boy from Oz.
Oh my
And I said, what if I do every Thursday, I'll raise money for Broadway Cares, like 45 days, and I'll really interview people for an hour and actually get long stories instead of these 1-minute sound bites. And I began, the first show was Paul Castry, Orfeh, and Paige Price. The second one was Norma Lewis, Christian Chenoweth. And then I just began doing it every week. And I love the stories so much. I just retain them just because I love the stories. So the reason why they flow, quote unquote, so easily out of me is because I love them and I've interviewed 1 million people and I love asking questions. So that's the whole story.
The key to success is authenticity, and you're just so authentically and uniquely you, and always were. And it was just, that was the key to what just opened the door for you to something totally unique. You filled the gap.
And do you know, so when I was on Seth Speaks, I was preggers, but the world didn't quite know I was preggers, but I showed up with Kevin Ryan. We were talking about the sleep out, right? For Covenant House. And so on the air, you were like, I'm pregnant. And I'm sitting there going, and you
I said pregnant. I didn't say pregnant pause.
No, I wish you could have added the little pregnant pause. And I think that's why Vivi loves you so much. I was like, he's the one that announced her coming to the world. It was you.
Oh, sorry. Yay. Because I love Vivi so much. By the way, just on a side note, for all the praise you guys are giving me, and I really appreciate it. And people are like, oh, you do so much for charity. I do really fun things for charities. Like the live stream is fun. Putting on shows is fun. Sleeping on the sidewalk is not fun. I feel like people like you actually do the hard work. Like Covenant House, like sleeping, like that's not fun. I would go to the sleep out with a portable piano, play for 2 hours, and then go the hell home to sleep and ordering Chinese food. So I feel like you're actually doing the work. So bravo, Stephanie J. Block.
Well, thank you. We all have our hats to wear. And what I love, going back to authenticity, is when I asked, you weren't one that was like, well, what is this again? And how long is it? And what time of year? You were just like, hells to the no. I'm never doing that.
That
but
would be
what
me.
I can offer you is time on my radio show. Or what I can offer you, I'd much rather that than the back and forth, where you're like, I know you're going to say no. So just lovingly say, out of my comfort zone. This is never happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It freaks. I'm so weird about sleep. My back always hurts. Like it's just not me.
No.
But I love raising money. And by the way, the reason why I do what I'm good at is when I first moved to New York, I really wanted to do social justice charity work. And I was volunteering at God's Love We Deliver, which brings meals to homebound patients. And I was like every week showing up and making things. And I was like, I can't even cook for myself. I'm like, why am I doing this? It is so not my skill set. I was like, I want to do something that's my skill set. And it's the whole put it out in the universe type of thing, because a couple of weeks later, I was at a Christmas party for Don't Tell Mama, where I was working a piano bar. And I met Matt McClanahan and Nancy Sundag, and I found out they did this thing where they brought music to hospitalized patients with AIDS, and it was called Hearts and Voices. And after that, probably 20 years, every week I went and I brought Broadway singers and I put in a show for hospitalized patients with AIDS. And my ward was the prison ward. So they were in prison.
Wow, Seth.
It was really interesting. They were in prison, but the medical facilities in prison weren't good enough for AIDS patients, unfortunately. So they had to be transported to the hospital called St. Clair's on 51st Street. And it was a locked ward because they were, they were for real. Like they were like, murderers. I mean, the way I was explaining it to people, because a lot of people still joke with me, they're like, you had me come to that show and you didn't tell me until in the middle of the show they were all prisoners. I would sometimes forget to say, by the way. But I would sort of explain it. I'd be like, oh, it was all a big mistake. So that's how I would sort of like explain why they were thrown in jail. But the point is I did it. I mean, I loved it. I did it. It was every Thursday at St. Clair's and so many amazing people. That's where I really first connected a lot with Audra, because Audra and I would do it almost every single week. And it was just wonderful. But my point is you do what you're good at. And it's like, I knew that I was a musician. I was not a cook and I'm not a sleeper on a sidewalk. My back, I'm too Jewish. My back, my neck.
You also do voices, stars for foster care, right? And that's very personal to you, right?
Yes. Well, I want to say it's personal to me because Julie was never really a foster kid. My daughter, she's James's niece and James adopted her and then I adopted her. However, I mean, sob stories are personal to me. And basically once I really heard, I didn't know about this, but once a foster kid hits 8 years old, they're considered quote unquote special needs because nobody wants to give them a home. Because they go, my God, if they're 8 years old and they need a home, they must be like a mess. And what it is the system wants you to stay with your family as much as possible. So they will try to take the parents, the grandparents, the aunts. And once everything is exhausted because the family unfortunately is a mess,
years have passed.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not the kid's fault. So once we heard that, we're like, and then there was this woman, and I'm outing her. Her name is Gladys Carrion, and she was appointed by effing de Blasio, and she cut the funding to this organization called You Gotta Believe, which is the only organization in New York solely dedicated to helping older foster kids find homes. And she cut the funding. And James and I had a shit fit. And we said, we've got to raise the money. I don't even know how we heard about it. Oh, we were training to become foster parents. So we heard they cut the funding and we said, we've got to put on a benefit for them. So we called, I won't say who, but these very fancy producers that do big events. And they were like, you need at least a year to plan this. You cannot do this in 6 weeks. We're like, anywho. So we texted, it was like Kristen Chenoweth, Tina Fey. Everybody said yes. We got a free theater and we did the first Broadway benefit for foster youth. And we basically, I mean, I'm not even trying to brag, but we did save the organization because they really were going to go out of business. And now we love them. We do it every single year. I love the concept behind it. First of all, I'd love people to look into it. It's called YouGottaBelieve.org. And the concept, because I said to James, I said, it can't be a regular benefit. So we have someone get up that either adopted from foster care or they were foster kids themselves or they were adopted, talk about what it was like, and then talk about something that meant something to them musically. And then that song is performed. For instance, Charlene Tilton from Dallas was a foster kid. Her mother, unfortunately, was in an institution. She had a really devastating childhood. But one time her mother was let out of the institution and they saw The Sound of Music, the movie. And Charlene said it meant so much to be with her mom and to see a happy family. And that show has always meant something to her. So after she told her story, Megan Hilty came out with a bunch of Broadway kids and they did Do Re Mi. It's amazing. Such a fun event. So anyway, yes, James and I do that together every year. We love You Gotta Believe.
But see, that's why you are a singular force in our community, because instead of saying, oh no, we got to do this, there's got to be this, we've got to line up this, you don't even think of the problems. You just say, okay, how are we going to do this? Let's make this happen. And then you make it happen. And it's 2 shows a day, not only one show a day, or it's, we get this done in a month and a half as opposed to a year. Like the way you are active and activate people, that is like, I have chills in my whole body because there are so few of you. Seth, Dennis, Rudetsky. Yes.
I know my middle name.
Have you always been this action oriented? Like you're like a pit bull. You see it, you latch onto it, and it's yours.
Going to go after it.
Is that, have you always been like that?
It's interesting because I do have ADD and people joke, I have ADD, but I do have ADD and I didn't realize it until I was an adult. But part of ADD is definitely instant gratification. And it's the kind of thing, right? And it's like, it can backfire because it's very frustrating to be patient. I mean, I'm just not that person, but it also, ADD, there's a plus to it, which is I just go, you have tunnel vision. And I don't think I do things I don't think I, hurt people because they need to get what I want. I'm not saying you're even saying that, but I'm thinking like, is there a downside to it? Maybe there's like a lack of understanding, like, well, why can't I get this done? But sometimes there are just these stupid rules in place. Here, I'll give you a great example. There's just a lot of stupid rules in place that aren't real, and people love to put up roadblocks that aren't real. So when I was doing
constructs, they're
oh
all
gosh.
false constructs.
It's false.
Drives me crazy. Drives me crazy.
So when I was doing my hair concert, every year I put on a concert for the Actors Fund. And I was doing hair, and I asked Billy Porter, I said, who should I get? Billy was in. I said, who should I get to sing Easy to Be Hard? And he mentioned Jennifer Hudson. She just on American Idol, and I was singing for her too, but I was like, she doesn't really belt very high, which, by the way, side story, she does belt very high. They told her on the show, do not belt high. But that's another story. But I was like, I don't know. Does she really belt high? And Billy's like, trust me. So anyway, I was like, okay, I'll ask Jennifer Hudson to make her Broadway debut. So I contacted 2 people. So the first person I contacted said they tour American Idol, and the last concert they're doing is the Sunday before your Monday night concert in New York. She's going to be in another city. There's no way she can do it. Thank God I contacted 2 people. He spoke to Jennifer. She was like, I will do anything to do that concert. I'll fly in that morning. So the point is, if I listen to one person, I was like, there's just no way. Everyone loves to say that. It makes me crazy. Right. So, and Betty Buckley, has this theory. I mean, it's maybe too far, but she said her mother taught her, ask for what you want. All they could say is no. And when they say no, ask again. So I don't know about that. It's maybe too far, but why not?
Well,
why not?
the way my husband always says this, it's polite persistence. If you send the email out and it doesn't get answered, you send pretty much the exact same email, again. And then if that doesn't get it, you just keep doing it as if you've never emailed them before. And eventually like, she's just answer her email.
We've all, because that's the thing. As much as I want to be annoyed at someone not answering the email, I'm like, I'm constantly not answering emails. Like, I'm not being an a-hole. Like, you just forget. So there's like, we're all in that position. So if someone bothers me, they keep doing it. I'm like, oh my God, yes, you're right. Here's the answer. So it's okay to do that. We all forget.
I'm totally ADD, so I understand that frenetic energy that you're talking about, but I consider it's twofold. It is a superpower because I can literally get like 17 things accomplished in such a short space because my brain can just like make these little lists and then I just go through and do it. But it makes me very short with people that can't do it. And I get frustrated. I'm like, why can't you do this? Just do that, And my son's always like, Mom, sometimes you got to just check it because you come across really bitchy because even if it's easy for you, it's not easy. Someone else can't see what you can see. And, so that's the downfall.
That's a really good point. Your mind is ahead of what you say. And it's funny when Stephanie and I do concerts because Stephanie and I are so opposite. I'm like, well, wing it. Stephanie's like, here's my list of songs. Here's the questions that should be asked.
This will be the direction in which I'd love to discuss. When you hear this word, that's about, 15 seconds before we should sing.
Totally. But then, Stephanie, you always go with me. That's what I love about you. That's why it doesn't bother me. I know that maybe because you trust me, but it's like you don't stick to your rigidity, and you're not rigid anyway. You're very in the moment.
I trust you, and I trust me. I just recently read. I'm going to paraphrase this wrong, but a bird doesn't feel unstable on a weak branch because they trust their wings.
Yeah,
and I am trying to use that in my life, going. There are so many things that I can't control. And let's be honest, like the world climate, the political climate, there's just so much going on that feels uncertain, scary, messy, upside down that I'm like, I can't do anything except trust me, trust the health of my family. And I'm going to use the word elect. I am electing this year to hold my morals, our standards, our integrity, our truth in my home. And that's all I can do. So that's what I'm electing to do, is to be that bird going, well, if that branch breaks, I can trust my wings. And I know a lot of people that I love feel similarly. And that is giving me just an ease of breath because I can go to anxiety, like paralyzed anxiety, real quick.
But you know what? Yeah. Because you're so organized and you do all your research and you're very, that allows you to then be in the moment and go with the flow because know
you're right.
That even if the branch is wobbly, you know your wings are the work that you do.
I've never felt you ever rigid in a performance, ever.
Thanks,
it's like, really, it's the pre. But by the way, that's why you were so brilliant as the baker's wife because you were channeling all your crazy control issues.
I know.
It was hilarious because I'm like, oh, this is what Stephanie pushes down all the time.
Mm-hmm. That's really funny because we work together on a weekly basis and I never find you controlling or rigid.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever.
Oh,
You're prepared, but you're not controlling and rigid. Ever.
I have a Broadway story that relates. Well, actually, two things I want to say, Stephanie. In terms of the paralyzed about the world, sometimes when I feel that way, I say, I can't change this, so let me support the people that can. Like, I'm not good at, like, talk to the other side. I'm like, I can't talk to the other side. So I'm like, let me donate to NAACP, or let me, like, follow, whatever. So that's a way that I calm myself down. I'm like, I can't do it. I will support the people that can do it. Part two, when you said about the wings, reminds me of Anika Larson. Anika Larson was in Beautiful, and she forgot the lyrics to this one song. And finally, she was like, can we just stop this whole song? But it kind of made sense because she's auditioning for Carole King as the lyricist. So it's sort of like, oh, the lyricist forgot her words. Started again, but Anika said she was like, oh my God, I think if the audience is nervous, they're not going to laugh for the rest of the show because they think I messed up. And she made her next joke and they laughed. And she was like, oh my God, I got him. And she said she always tells in master classes, she goes, being a professional actor doesn't mean you don't mess up. It's how you recover from messing up. And that's what it reminds me about being the bird. It's like, it doesn't mean the branch won't shake, but you know how to fly, so you know how to fix it.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's totally
that's right.
Yeah. About trusting yourself and trusting the people around you.
And the prep. If you're prepared, then things can go wrong.
Yeah. Same thing with forgetting lyrics, which I have done. I've been to the White Room. It's not a great place to be. But again, if you know the lyrics so well, if you know yourself so well, if you know the character so well, you can figure out the beginning, middle, end, and get yourself back on because you know the content. You know where the story's going. And it may not rhyme. It may not be in the meter, but you'll stay true to the story and you'll get yourself back on there. How do musicians get found or audition or contracted to play in a pit? Literally.
I love your
question.
question.
I don't know how that happens.
I love your question. So just so you know, my first book I ever wrote, I was at Barnes & Noble and I saw like the Nanny Diaries, the inside story of being a nanny. And I was like, what about the inside story of being a Broadway musician? Like no one knows that. So I wrote a book that originally was called Subbing. That's what I was a Broadway sub. And my publisher was like, it's a horrible title. So now it's called Broadway Nights. It's a comedy book and it's fiction, but that's the thrust of it is fear of success, but it's about being sub. Being a musician is a mixed bag because, it's very hard to get a Broadway gig because it's not like being an actor where you just go to an open call and you prove yourself. And it's like, wow, that stranger's amazing. Cast him. There are no open calls to musicians. Get it through connections. So in one sense, it's amazing because your friend literally gets you a job. But in another sense, if you don't have any connections, it's really difficult. So basically, I moved to New York. I dropped off my resume at stage doors and I did get a couple of people contact me because you really have to begin as a sub. You don't get a full-time share. And when you're a musician on Broadway, you can miss 50% of your performances. So people need a couple of subs. And you may say that's so unfair. Actors can't, but people want to see a lead actor. They don't need to see the piccolo player that night. So the point is people need subs. Hey, but you have to prove yourself. So for me, for being a pianist, it was a little easier because I'd be playing people's auditions and music directors would see me play and say, oh, you're a good pianist. Give me your car. But it all happened because of people I knew. I was playing a cabaret act. I couldn't make it. My friend Joe Falcon, who's the brilliant pianist, was the sub. We became friends. He got the show my favorite year as a pianist, and he knew I was desperate to play Broadway. He asked me to be his sub, and that was my first Broadway show. And because of that, Ted Sperling, who was conducting, saw me conduct. So it all began leading to the next gig. Once you're good, people know who you are. But what's crazy about being a sub, and Stephanie would freak you the F out, is you practice the part by yourself in your apartment, and you don't ever get to play with the orchestra until your first performance.
Wow.
So
No, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. No. You're completely, I've been an understudy. I was an understudy in the Ritz for Brooks Atmanskis. So I did understudy rehearsal. It's not the same thing. You're just by yourself and then you're in the orchestra and that's also your audition. So you can't even mess up and go, sorry, it's my first time. If you don't do well that first time, you're never asked again. So it's
like singing with the cast album. And then before you know it, you're on Broadway singing by yourself with no help.
Right. It sounds different. And I always talk about the panic of like certain Broadway shows. Like my favorite year was a good show to begin with because the first thing you play is the overture everyone's playing. When I played Ragtime, they're taking the photographs of the use of recording device that's strictly prohibited. Just me. Ba-da-da-da-da. So scary. I don't want to begin with a solo. But in terms of getting to Broadway and about knowing people, I'm so glad you bring this up because this is a new project I'm working on. So I ran into somebody big on Broadway and I was saying, how's orchestras going? And he said, oh, it's so hard now because, we have to hire diverse orchestras and, they just don't have the experience. And I'm like, well, they don't have the experience because you've never hired them to have the acting experience and they don't know people. Let's say they don't go to the top music schools. They don't have connections on Broadway. I'm like, of course they don't have the experience. So I started something. It's called Project Broadway Sits Probe. First person I called was Mary Mitchell Campbell. So what we're doing is she runs something called Muse, which we all love. And we are getting a full orchestra together of diverse players that have never played on Broadway before. MTI is loaning us all their scores, and we are doing a full sits probe. Isn't that great? A sits probe with a Broadway conductor, with Broadway singers, Broadway musicals to show, and we're having a section leader of Broadway players to work with these people so they all know what it's like. So we're beginning with Guys and Dolls, and Ana Gasteyer is doing Adelaide, and Josie de Guzman is going to do Sarah, David Chase is conducting. So that's the project, to get people to learn how to play Broadway.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Incredible. Because that practical knowledge, being in the chair, knowing what it feels like to be in a pit, I mean, all of it, working with monitors, like you cannot teach that unless you're in the moment doing it all with those that have done it 1,000 times over.
All the kind of stuff that you do on Broadway that you don't necessarily do in music school, and listening to singers and also, by the way, meeting other players.
You should reach out to LaChance and BTU because they have a very similar program. It's not with musicians, but it's with all of the other positions that happen backstage and in management and all of that. You should team up with BTU to bring this, like a united project. That would be amazing.
That's actually a good idea because we wouldn't need a stage manager for these situations. That's a great idea.
And you bring in all the people that help this stuff happen and they all really learn
sound.
Every step of
you're going to need
it.
sound.
We do need sound. It's funny. We're just sort of doing it ourselves. Oh, that's a great idea. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, go.
I want to ask you, Seth, is there an interview that kind of sticks out to you?
Oh my God. That's really hard. It's been so many years. Comedically, I could think of ones that stick out. Like when I gave Patty the Pone lines and I said, do you remember your line readings from this? And it was like, Akstama. And then she did it live and then I played the recording and I was like, you're exactly right. So that was really fun when I was like, ladies and gentlemen, what is that? We are here to fight the devil. Like she knew. So that's the kind of stuff I really appreciated. So I remember comedically, but I definitely, I've done some where the people are just very moved remembering things. And that makes me so happy. Like definitely talking to Cheetah Rivera, like about Gwen Verdon. There's a great, beautiful story that she told me about Gwen Verdon, which I love, is that Cheetah was in Can-Can, which by the way, I'm obsessed with, the original Can-Can by Cole Porter. It's like saying when I was playing Beethoven's Ninth with Beethoven. So anyways, she was literally doing Can-Can with Cole Porter. And she told me, I just think this is so beautiful. She was auditioning to be Gwen's understudy because she was in the ensemble. And she said Gwen called her to her dressing room after. And she said, you never went to the star's dressing room in those days. There was such a separation between chorus and dressing, but she could not believe she was being called in. And Gwen said, listen, I heard you auditioned to be my understudy. I don't think you should be an understudy. I think you should have your own roles. And it gave Cheetah this confidence to become an actual performer on her own. And literally 20 years later, they were standing side by side starring in Chicago. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, incredible. I love that.
That's incredible. Amazing.
So that's the kind of stuff and when people are talking about stuff and they're just so moved, it makes me very happy. So I can't tell you one, but just certain moments really stick out.
And now our 5 questions. Okay, so you would take music to prisons. Here's a question. If we were to call James and say, oh my God, Seth has been arrested, what would he have assumed you've done to get yourself in jail?
Not being aware of something, walking through a door in the airport, that's like whatever you do not enter this door. Like I'm not ADD, not aware of my surroundings. So pushing right through an alarm thing or making a quote unquote joke at TSA. Like I have 7 bombs strapped to my body trying to get a laugh.
Right. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, Seth. That's what they used on me when I was arrested. So there you go.
And for that story, you need to go back a few podcast episodes. Okay, so I have this book that I love called The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows by John Coe. Do you know this book at all?
No, dear.
It's very just random and strange words that he's picked up from all over the world in different languages and stuff. So I like to put a word out and then you and Steph have to guess what the meaning is, okay? Sure. So the word is apolotus. Apolotus. It's a noun. Apolotus.
Oh, it's obvious. It's a female politician. She's a beautiful politician.
Ooh, that's really good. And a politus is, oh, well, you said politician, so now my brain goes there. A politus is an amendment added to any rule of law in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, there are 3 politus for the ERA amendment. What? Go.
You're both wrong. It is the moment that you realize that you are changing as a human being. You are finally outgrowing your old problems like a reptile shedding its skin.
Wow.
Where's that coming from? What's tired little single island? It's from the Welsh island.
It comes from the stage of molting of an invertebrate shell that begins with the skin underneath.
Yeah, but who wrote that word?
The origin of the word is
Often
where?
it will say where the origin is, but for this word, it does not say.
Right. The land of BS.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. If you could wake up with a superpower, worldly or otherworldly, what would it be?
Wow. Can I just be shallow and just say, like, sugar is good for you?
Oh, yes. I love that superpower.
I'm such a sugar addict. I mean, I only want to talk chip cookies all day long.
So like your body takes in insulin and just makes it protein or something like that. Wouldn't that be great?
I'm literally up to 3 bowls of cereal at night. I have coconut Fruity Pebbles, and then I have a surprise third one. I'm such an addict. So yeah.
Maybe it's not ADD. Maybe it's just your sugar intake. You should get retested again.
Whole personality changes. Okay, get back to me.
Okay,
all right, Emil.
Tell me one irrational fear that you have.
Oh gosh, I'm a fearful person. I'm neurotic. That's so interesting. I really don't think I'm a fearful person, which is what James is always upset with me about. That I'm completely unaware of. Like, I'm always like, I'll leave my wallet on the floor. The amount of times you're at a restaurant where someone comes over and goes, sir, your wallet's on the floor. I'm like, I know. I don't want it in my pocket because it bothers me. So I just put it on the floor. Like, I just don't really have fears.
But that's why you accomplish so much. You never see the roadblocks. You just keep going.
Fearless.
That's what it is.
Name of your episode.
But I'm neurotic. I'm not brave. I mean,
No.
but I'm neurotic. Does that help?
Yeah, it makes me feel a little better. Yes, yes. All right, last question. If you were nail polish, what color would it be, and what's the cheeky little name of that nail polish?
Well, just so you know, I bite my nails, and I'm a pianist. People are always like, you must have such beautiful, and then they see my hands, they're horrified. That's A. So nail polish is not really my thing. But I love actually kind of the color of this shirt. I love like a nice hot pink. I also did the revival of Grease on Broadway, and the theater was kind of painted this color. And what would the name? I mean, the name would obviously be Sassafras.
Oh,
I love
of course. For Riz. For Riz at Sassafras.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. We adore you. Thank you for your time and your candidness and your humor.
I had the best time.
Good.
I really did. Everyone keep listening to Stages, and there's so many episodes. So don't just listen to this crappy one. Listen to all of them. Bye. Love you guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, audience.
Coming up next, what struck a chord with us right after this break? Oh my gosh, he's great.
I know. And then you travel with him and you get to see a whole other side. But that energy, that sort of, I know I've been using the word crackle a lot, but he has a crackle to him. That is so great.
It's so interesting. I taught that workshop about how to set like your goal for the year. And one of the rules is that you have to align with your dharma, and your dharma is just your soul's desire to be what it was meant to be in this world. And one of the ways you discover what your dharma is to just ask yourself, how can I serve? How can I serve? Because it's not about you. It's about the uniqueness of what you have to give is how you really align with your dharma. It's like he discovered it and always knew it. You know, he just, that's how he serves. He just gives it all away. Like Danny Burstein says, like he just puts it all out there, give it all away. And it's so obvious. And I think that's why he's such a upbeat and happy and positive and fearless kind of guy. Cause he's just doing exactly what he feels like he was supposed to do. It's great. Awesome.
You know, you just said something that reminded me that I have to find something since we moved to California. So I'm in my 20s, and my dad for Christmas gave me the most extraordinary gift that getting older has allowed me to just love it even more. But it was this little wooden box, and inside was an old pocket watch from his grandfather, a very unique coin that was not printed a lot, and a spoon. And I looked at it and I was so confused as a 20-some-year-old woman. And I looked at my dad and I was like, what is all this? What's this culmination of things? And he goes, I want you to remember that time is precious, that being of service to others will only make you happier, and that you are a unique and precious thing. And I thought, oh my gosh, for my dad to put the thought and the energy into that little wooden box, it was so special. And I know I put it in a special place when I moved here, but I've got to find it. I think I need to just get eyes and hands on that again to remind me of the importance of those three things.
You know what? Yeah. I'm going to do something like that for Seb when he goes off to college. That's a really lovely idea. Maybe I'll give him
my
like
dad would be
my
so
grandpa's
happy.
Watch and something from the house, like remember where you came from. And
yes.
Well, how was Vivi's birthday?
Oh, thanks for asking. It was really special.
Pin the poop on the polar bear.
Pin the poop on the polar bear.
That was fun.
There's this silly game where you put cotton balls and then you take like a big ladled spoon and try to pick up the cotton balls blindfolded and put it in a bucket. And everybody's like, ooh, that's a lot. And you end up having nothing because cotton balls are weightless. So you don't know if you're actually putting So that was a good one. And then we took big marshmallows and tried to create towers. Whoever got the highest tower got a prize. And then we did an entire, I think it was 15 of us, family polar plunge. So we went out back. We all held hands, and in the rain and this freezing cold pool, we all jumped in. And it was, I mean, we let the neighbors know that there's going to be screaming, so please don't call the cops. We were screaming our heads off, laughing our heads off. And it really was a fun, like, family memory bonding moment.
That's so sweet.
My mom made a polar bear cake.
Did your mom jump in the pool too?
No. Nana, Papa, and my two pregnant nieces did not. Nobody else got a pass card. But, you know, if you're over 75 and you have a baby in your womb, you don't have to jump. But everybody else, you show up at the party, you're jumping. They all committed to it. It was really fun.
That's super fun.
I know, and it's the last year of her single digits. I can't believe it.
Oh, Steph, my son just got accepted to his school that he was hoping to get accepted to.
Which one?
He wants to go to UNH really badly, and they wrote to him and said that they're going to do this other program with him where he goes and does his year abroad first.
Whoa.
So I think he's going off
where's
to
he
Spain.
headed?
He's going to Spain in the fall.
Is he going to Barcelona?
No, he's going to go Sevilla. And
Sevilla. Beautiful.
Yep. He's so excited. For the first time, I actually heard my teen say, Mom, I'm thrilled.
Wow. That's really exciting.
Hey, baby. So we got his Irish passport because I wanted to have two passports because he has Michael, just in case it's COVID or a problem.
He's a European citizen. That's very helpful.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's really exciting. But also now that it's real, I'm on the verge of tears a lot.
Yeah.
I can imagine. A lot.
I cry all the time.
Oh, just wait. I mean, the thought that he's really like heading out the door. Oh,
so sweet. Okay. I really do have to go, but I love you. Okay. I'll see you Thursday.
I love you too. Bye.
Bye.
Stages podcast is produced by Stephanie J. Block and Mary Lee Fairbanks in association with iHeartRadio. You can find us on iHeartRadio Podcasts and iHeartRadio Broadway or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on social media or join the mailing list at stagespodcast.net, which is also where you will find Stages swag. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share and rate and review the show. It really helps us grow. Big thank you to Noah Kaiserman and Garrett Healy for our original music and Allison Arns, who has nurtured this podcast from day one. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.